For more reaction now, I'm joined by the Shadow Attorney-General Andrew Wallace. Andrew, thanks for your time this afternoon. You've seen the Prime Minister.
Thanks.
He was asked repeatedly at this press conference in Canberra about why he will not hold a Royal Commission. He says he wants urgency and unity, not division and delay. What's your response?
Well, this seems to be, the line that the Prime Minister always takes when he's under pressure, that he wants unity. But the reality is, I've been on the ground in Sydney, where I am right now, and I've been talking with people who have been impacted by this terrible atrocity. And people want answers. They don't want a hodgepodge, piecemeal approach to this. I listened to the Prime Minister talk about multiple inquiries, and you know what? I agree with him. We don't want multiple inquiries. We just want one all-encompassing inquiry. It absolutely beggars belief, Trudy, why the Prime Minister of this country would not want a Royal Commission into the worst shooting since 1996, the worst terror attack in Australia, in Australia's history. People are wondering, as am I, why? Why is the Prime Minister so adverse to this? What's he trying to hide here?
Is there a way in which the state-based Royal Commission that Chris Minns, the Premier, says he's going to call? The Prime Minister promised today in the press conference to provide cooperation from the federal level. Can we basically have a federal Royal Commission at the state level if there is that level of cooperation? Or in your view, is there something that would mean the New South Wales inquiry couldn't do?
Well, essentially a state-based Royal Commission would investigate state matters. Now, the Prime Minister has said, well, he'll allow a cooperation with federal authorities. But you know what the reality is? I don't trust the Prime Minister on this. I want to ensure that a Royal Commissioner or Royal Commissioners have the ability to be able to call people at their choosing from various government departments, including federal government ministers, as to what they knew, when they knew it, and what they knew, when they knew. Not have people appointed by the federal government who would appear before a state-based Royal Commission at the behest of the government, the federal government. No. That is totally unacceptable. A federal Royal Commission has to be able to call who it wants, when it wants, and why it wants, not anything else. And look, the reality is that people are screaming out for this. Why, in God's earth, would the Prime Minister be pushing back against this to the extent that he is? It makes no sense.
The other plank of this is the Richardson review that the Prime Minister established yesterday. Dennis Richardson, an eminent Australian, no doubt, an ability to look through this by the early year in terms of the law enforcement intelligence agencies. The Coalition welcomes that, right? That level of scrutiny does need to be there for an urgent review as to what potentially went wrong in those two spheres. Is your argument that just isn't enough, is the point?
That's right, Trudy. I mean, I'm certainly not here impugning the character or knowledge or experience of Dennis Richardson. That's not the issue. This is multi-jurisdictional, multi-disciplined. We're talking about issues involving the connection and the ability to be able to work between state and territory police forces and intelligence agencies. We're talking about immigration. We're talking about the education sector, the cultural and arts sectors, and the influence that they've had on anti-Semitism in this country. There are so many aspects of what we want, and I was quite surprised the Prime Minister said that the terms of reference that the Coalition drafted were too detailed. Well, I'll take that as a badge of honour. What elements of the terms of reference that we drafted makes the Prime Minister uncomfortable? Look, we'll sit down with the Prime Minister. Susan Lee has said that she's happy to sit down with the Prime Minister and nut this out. But to try and argue that a piecemeal approach is going to provide a better outcome than a all-encompassing federal Royal Commission sat on by 3 commissioners it belies belief. But the outcome, sure, a Royal Commission will take some time. We've already set out some of the things that the Commonwealth Government can do today to try and get the show on the road, so to speak. We don't want to see any delays, but what people are calling for, what the Coalition is calling for, is a detailed response, a federal detailed response. And it's not just me, it's not just Susan Lee. We've had the former Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia talking about this and saying that the only way to go is through a federal Royal Commission. We've had Mike Kelly, former Defence Minister for the Labor Party. We've had Mike Kelly, who's a Labor backbencher, who's very courageous in breaking ranks with the Prime Minister. And we've also had Ed Husitt come out just recently in the last couple of hours and also break ranks with the Prime Minister. So the Labor Party, the government is fracturing on this issue because people know that they've got nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. They just want answers. And I'm very pleased to see that across the board, sensible people are saying this is the only way.
Andrew, a quick final one. The Attorney-General Michelle Rowland said today that now is not a time for partisanship. The PM also seeming to make a comment that it's not necessarily passing the national interest test, how the opposition has been behaving. Your response?
Well, this is the Labor Party's go-to line whenever they're under pressure, Trudy. The Australian public, as I said, I've been down here in Sydney today and also last week, and the mood on the ground here has turned from one of grief to white-hot rage. They want answers. What the Prime Minister has to do is step up and lead. You know, the Prime Minister in particular and the Labor Party will always pull the unity ticket when they're under pressure and they don't want that sort of level of scrutiny. Well, I'm sorry, Prime Minister, you're not going to get that sort of free hospital pass here. We're going to keep the pressure up until you call a federal Royal Commission.
Shadow Attorney-General Andrew Wallace, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Trudy.
Authorised by Andrew Wallace, LNP, Boccarina, Queensland.